Today's podcast is being sponsored by a project that we at PowerMonkey have been working on for a while and are incredibly excited about. If you've ever wanted to attend PowerMonkey Camp with some of the world's best athletes and coaches, here is your chance. On January 1st, we're bringing PowerMonkey Camp to your living room with PowerMonkey Camp Online. Online campers have access to over 22 hours of station lectures featuring our elite coaching roster of Olympians, national champions, world record holders in their respective fields. This course is for everyone, beginners, seasoned athletes, coaches, and even fitness enthusiasts. We're offering you an incredible opportunity to learn from some of the top coaches in gymnastics, Olympic weightlifting, aerobic capacity, rowing, jump rope, kettlebell training, as well as doing some lectures on programming methodologies, nutrition, injury prevention, and even on mindset training. Additionally, PowerMonkey Camp Online will provide continuing education credits for NASM, AFAA, CrossFit, and others, and serve as your first step in becoming a PowerMonkey Fitness Master Trainer. Registration is open now, but will close at the end of February. Go to academy.powermonkeyfitness.com to find out more. Hey everyone, welcome to another PowerMonkey podcast. On today's episode, Chad and I interview Rory McKernan. Rory is one of those guys that doesn't need too much of an intro. He's been within the CrossFit community for well over a decade in a variety of roles. He was an L1 coach and then moved on to being part of the media staff, being well known for all of the in front of camera work that he did for a number of years at the CrossFit Games. He has since transitioned from California out to Tennessee, where he works with Rich Froning and Mayhem, the whole community out there. He is part of their media team, as well as being the agents for both Rich Froning and Haley Adams. Rory has an incredible background. His work out in Tennessee right now is something very interesting going on out there. He has some other projects that are worth mentioning, but he's one of the nicest guys in the community, and we hope you guys enjoy this episode with Rory. All right, Rory, what's up, man? Thanks for taking the time. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm just immediately feeling inept looking at both of your backgrounds, your presentation. You know, I'm just like, it's been a boring office here, but I guess that's the way of the quarantine. We can't say it's the way of 2020 anymore because 2020 is over, but I'm doing good, man. I'm really stoked to be on with you guys.
Yeah, we had a guest on here not that long ago that said that doing Zoom calls and doing Zoom podcasts and everything, they always find it interesting to see what people have in their background. It's kind of like some kind of view into who they are as a person. You know, I have this stuff. My wife hates it. I have a picture of my wife here doing some aerial and dance stuff. She hates that. Like, I have that up on the wall back here, but I'm like, it is a little bit of like who we are. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's also like you could even
on.
Go deeper and be like, is it even planned at all? You know,
right,
like,
right. This is my desk area.
Did you a person that puts any effort into it at all? You know,
right.
Well, all that will take is for me to angle my camera down, and you'll see all the junk in my floor. So that's the real story right there.
Don't do it. We know you're not wearing pants or anything.
Exactly.
Either, so
absolutely not.
Let's keep it PG, all right?
Well,
Chad, long time no see, man.
Man.
It was I don't know if Dave knows this. Does Dave know that I actually taught you how to air squat? Like, I don't want to take all the credit for your success over the years.
I'm glad that you brought that up. I was going to mention that a little bit, and I'm not sure I've ever talked to Dave specifically about it, but absolutely, I remember.
I gotta hear this.
You being one of the level 1 instructors there. It was now January of 2010. What's that? 11 years ago now. Can't believe it.
Wow.
Yeah, they're in San Antonio.
This was a million years ago, and it was one of those audacious experiences where where you find yourself in a situation where you know Chad's prowess with both a barbell and human movement, and they're like, yeah, you're still going to teach him how to do a med ball clean in a breakout session. I was like, no.
Well, I remember the snatch breakout session. Ursula and myself were both in there. Ursula, of course, now has gone on to become, at some point for a little bit, the IWF president, vice president for many years, and obviously an incredible coach. But I'm trying to remember who it was, but he was like, you know what, guys, do you just want to coach this? And he was joking. He wasn't going to let us do it, but you could tell he was very, very intimidated and shaken. But, along those lines, I wanted to, like I said, I was planning on bringing that up, but kind of old school CrossFit at that point. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit, and I'm sure that you'll be glad to do so. And what that means is that, before everything that was kind of the point where things were beginning to take off like wildfire for CrossFit, I think early 2010, Agreed. Somewhere around that time. And can you just talk on, just your perspective and thoughts on the difference between then and now?
Oh man. I look back on it so lovingly. And I mean, I guess everybody's got romanticized the some of the favorite parts of their lives, right? But that era in CrossFit was really special, and I think because I'm certainly not one who, now that we're that CrossFit is so big, right? This community's grown so large that I'm like, it was more fun when it was underground. But I think that you guys would probably agree that oftentimes like the hardest things that you ever do are probably like your fondest memories.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do really remember about those times was it was real. It was organic, and I don't like that word in a lot of senses, but it was organic in the sense that it felt like, well, this is the truth. I worked at a gym in northern San Diego. I could pick up the phone and call like a competitor, like CJ Martin at the time lived in downtown San Diego, and he was so generous with information. And we were all figuring it out from scratch, both from not just how to coach these movements. You guys are both specialists in areas where a lot of people had to learn, from square one. Wow, how do I actually put a barbell in someone's hands and get them to snatch? How do I teach a handstand or muscle ups or something complicated like that? But it was a lot more kumbaya in that sense. And I don't know if that's completely fair to say, because I've been plugged out of that part of CrossFit, like that actual running of an affiliate, being on the ground as an instructor. But those are some of my really fond memories. And the other part of it was, as an organization, even though we had this, like, we were blown up, like we got on network TV right after that level 1, right?
Yeah.
But we were still probably 6 of us in the media office and just running around like our hair was on fire and trying to figure things out as best we could. And there was a real camaraderie from that will be, it's one of my fondest memories of all time. And again, like, I'm speaking through my personal lens, but that's when I was still coaching.
Right.
And I've never lost that love. Like, I've never lost the love for human connection, watching somebody succeed, trying to creatively kind of find fixes and help them get from point A to point B. But it's funny when you say compare it to now, it's just, you almost have to dissect out every single segment of it in order to, right? Because there's so many differences. And having, I mean, to be fair though, I think that even in the context of this last year, which was tough, man. And I don't just mean like the world tough, like Corona tough, but like CrossFit, it was a tough year. I did come away in most senses really refreshed that a lot of that stuff was still remaining in terms of the shared DNA, the shared values, the sense of community. But it has certainly changed. One of the examples I can give you is that I'm sitting inside of CrossFit Mayhem, and an affiliate with the kind of impact that this place has, and the type of reach and the type of even like you take Mayhem and then take Rich, and like the type of celebrity, like the dude, he's as big as a lot of celebrities that you would know from other spaces. And so that just wasn't where we were at back then. Back then we were just like, man, this is a cool way to get fit. We all believed that it was like the best way, it was like, it was this amazing technology we're gonna go solve the problems of the world with. And so yeah, it's fun to it's fun to look back, and it always makes me smile, like especially specific memories like that of having you at a level 1. We're at University of San Diego, I think.
No, we were in San Antonio.
We're in San Antonio.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
San Antonio. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. You went to so many places, right? I mean, you traveled around and had that experience. But going back to what you were saying, I think the basics are still there. Like, there are so many things that are different, but the basics in community. And I do think that CrossFit has taken a big step towards, I mean, easily changing the world. CrossFit to me has changed the world. There's no doubt about it. And you were a big part of that. And you branched off into the media side, of course. And I've always been interested to know, what led you to do that? Because like you said, you did love coaching so much. You taught so many level 1s. How was it that you made that decision, and why are you passionate about commentating and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's funny. It's I'm not sure that I have the right answer, to be honest with you, but right at the time that what do they say, that luck is when opportunity meets preparation. I definitely don't even think I was prepared. But after the 2009 games, so 2008, I went to the CrossFit Games, and I was just like a fanboy coach who happened to live in Southern California, heard about the games. By the next year, the guy who eventually became my brother-in-law, the other media Jordan Gravatt, he was making videos, and he was like, hey dude, it would really help if you pulled this together by just like saying some stuff. So it wasn't a paid gig, it wasn't official, it was just like, again, we were kind of running by the seat of our pants. And that was the first time that I had ever, not in my life, like I had done some random stuff in college, but it was my first time that I had actually done on-camera stuff, and it was a blast. And just happened to meet the director of media, Tony Budding, at the time. And here's a big difference. He called me later the month after the games, and he said, hey, listen, CrossFit's getting huge. I need a second person in the media office. So it was like, it was getting so big that they needed two. And so the opportunity presented itself. We happened to be pregnant with our first child. As blessed as the road life is, like you guys can probably speak to this, is tough, And so especially with that, I was like, the opportunity for a little bit of solidifying like a role in the organization that I absolutely was head over heels for. And then the potential to do things that were creative was really attractive to me. And so it was kind of like a wing and a prayer. It was, and I still didn't give up the seminar life. Like I was full-time at the media office and on the road probably 2 weekends out of the month for another year after that. And I didn't get to do I didn't get to do very much fun stuff until like 2012. So my first job for CrossFit Media was to rewrite every single abstract for the CrossFit Journal for like $10 an hour. They were like, hey, these are just auto pulls from the articles. Like if you could rewrite these so that they make a little bit of sense, that would be great. And so, I had to cut my teeth, had to learn how to do video editing and all that kind of stuff. And it's all skills that have kind of come full circle, and I really enjoy them now. But it was a grind back then.
Man, I didn't realize you paid your dues so much. You surely deserve it for sure.
I'll spare you most of the stories, but it was it was grindy back then, because we were still experimentational. It was like we would literally from month to month be like, hey, maybe we should do a video with every single or do a video demonstration with every single workout release, and maybe we should try this, we should try this. And again, we were all so passionate that I think nobody, what's the old saying? It's like if you're really passionate, you never work a day in your life. Like we took that a little bit too far. It's like, let's just do some 14-hour days because
with a new baby, with a new baby at home too, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure your wife appreciated that stuff.
Yeah.
But well, one of the things you just mentioned in there too, answering one of Chad's questions with regards to being a tough year, and for all of us involved in the community, and the big change that happened with new CEO, with Eric coming on board. And I know Eric has been down to Mayhem and probably hung out with you a little bit. What are your thoughts on Eric, and what do you think that he brings to the table that will allow CrossFit to kind of take that next step?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, as a person, I did my best to reserve any kind of judgment until he did come here, and as a person, he's fantastic. I was really impressed, and again, it was such a topsy-turvy time that I think there was a lot of sentiment that was like, well, anything would be better, right? But it was really impressive, especially for me in our early conversations, that he was. I could tell that he was engaged. I could tell that he actually wanted to learn. And I could tell that he valued, like he came to Cookeville, which it spoke leaps and bounds to me, right? There was other athletes besides Rich here. It wasn't like he came just to speak to me and Rich. Obviously T and Matt live here, and there's a large amount of people in the surrounding area. But yeah, so that really, that kind of blew me back initially, that he made the effort to come out and literally sat down and more or less just said, hey, what do you got? And addressed it very honestly. Professionally, it's funny because I don't having been in CrossFit for so long, not just like the Greg Glassmans of the world, but most people at CrossFit, until there started to be these mass firings a couple of years ago, I mean, people were having very, very long careers there. We didn't have a large churn. There wasn't a lot of turnover. And so I don't have a ton of experience in terms of like, what are the benchmarks and what are the timelines that you give somebody to determine their efficacy as a leader in an organization. I've Googled it, I've looked it up, I know that the first 100 days are important. And I can say definitively that, like, even if I don't like all the changes that have been made so far, I see that changes have been made. and there's still things that I have got gripes about as well. But I think that I have seen enough, even with the release of the CrossFit Games rulebook today, a couple hours ago. I do see changes being made and efforts being made to utilize the input that's been given and put that into play. And I think the second part of your question is what does he bring to the table? I think the success that he's having in a completely different arena is both. I think it's a real benefit, and in the sense that he has obviously been very successful. The difficulty is that CrossFit, as you guys know, there are so many nuances to the way that we kind of be and the way that we interact and the way that we do or don't accept people not accept, but the way that we kind of the sniff test, you know what I mean? It's like you can pretty quickly get rooted out if people think, oh, they're just in it for the money, or there's some sort of inauthenticity attached to it. And then having said that, he was an affiliate owner for a decent amount of time as well. So I think that he brings a really unique cocktail. Obviously, he was the guy that stepped up to the plate when this whole thing went down. And so overall, I'm really hopeful, man. I think that even getting the games off the ground is an indication. I mean, nothing was perfect. I don't care if you're a football fan or a basketball fan or a CrossFit Games fan. Of course, the games didn't look like people wanted them to look this year, but having been now on the other side of the ball and tried to do things here at Mayhem where it was dramatically affected by COVID, and seeing that they actually did put together a final that was broadcast and that crowned a champion and all the things, I give them a lot of credit for that too. So that's a really, really long-winded answer.
No, not at all. Yeah. And
I'm optimistically hopeful.
Yeah. And, obviously being able to put on the games, like you said, an event of that size is just impressive in this year. I think it gave everyone a chance to kind of sit back, watch, and enjoy, which is one of the great things that the CrossFit Games allows us to do, is see our favorite athletes compete head to head and go at it. And I think that was fantastic. But you mentioned some things that, you're not in favor of, or that maybe aren't what you would have done. Would you mind touching on one or two that you think might have been better off in another direction?
Sure. Or I guess I'll give you more of a, let me give you the spirit of something is I really still think that there's a ways to look, and I caveat all this stuff because I can only imagine how difficult it is. I think that he probably had an even rosier picture of what he thought that he was getting than was the reality. And he knew that he was stepping into a mess, but I'm sure that there's a lot of things to untangle. But I still think there's a long way to go in terms of communication. A lot of gripes from a lot of folks were, hey, listen, I don't want to get this critical information. If I'm an athlete, about competition, if I'm an affiliate owner, about the future of my business, if I'm a patron, about the behavior of the company, I don't want to get that kind of stuff from a third party. I want it directly from the horse's mouth. And so we're talking about changes. We've seen some of them rolled out, some of them been official announcements, but in terms of communications, I think that still has a ways to go. Gotcha. So that's less specific, but it's a sentiment that I've heard multiple places, so it's worth saying. And then, like, as a completely subjective opinion, obviously here at Mayhem, we're bummed about the new announcement of the team competition, which it basically flips from super teams back to the affiliate cup. And I'm a bright side kind of guy, so I'm trying to figure out, how does this help affiliates? Does this engender more participation that's going to be beneficial to a lot of people in terms of long-term health? But my initial knee-jerk reaction is disappointment with that, and it was just that basically. Yeah.
So, you mentioned the super teams there, and of course, indicating that you're in favor of super teams. What is it that you like about super teams, and how do you feel that has benefited and would benefit CrossFit?
Because I'm a fan of the sport. I think that it's an interesting step back into a different direction where, I guess I'll put it this way. What I dislike is seeing when the competition is kind of like first and second place battling it out, and third place is 3 miles behind. I think that, again, I don't have a firm line on this. I'm a gray area guy, but I think that you've got the potential for teams who are still super teams but happen to live in the same area,
right,
to now be competing against really, really good affiliates. And I'm sure there's plenty of counter evidence to this as well. But as a fan of the sport, having seen it grow, having gotten invested in athletes, I think having been a commentator, it was really beneficial at the point where we turned a corner, and it was, instead of the commentator saying, okay, the second female on the team is now approaching the barbell, they knew exactly who that athlete was, and they had a couple of stats on them, and they were a little bit invested, and fans were getting into it.
Yeah.
And again, now you have like even spin-off sports who had team competitions where people learned who the athletes were, et cetera. Yeah, that I think that those are my main reasons. But obviously, I'm not embarrassed to say this, that like a lot of it comes from the subjectivity of the fact that I'm here at Mayhem, and
Right.
it was a massive surprise, I think, to people who, athletes with a lot of skin in the game who have put in a lot of time and ascended to an amazing place in the sport.
I think it's kind of interesting too, because what you ended up seeing towards the end of where before they allowed for super teams, people were recruiting, right? You were just recruiting athletes who were within a driving distance to say, hey, you're only a couple hours away. You might not be a member of my gym, but why don't you drive and say you're a member of my gym? And it's going to go back to that. So there was super teams that were being created, but within a particular kind of zone, right? So everyone's kind of moving in that direction. It's very unlikely that you're just going to have people in a particular gym being the members, being the athletes that are going to compete. They're going to work towards some kind of super team anyway. It's just that you're kind of like limiting it to a particular mile radius now.
Yeah, right. And I think that a lot of that influence had already been thrown around. So you're probably, again, like what I don't want to see is this massive striation of the leaderboard where it's like those teams that you're talking about had accomplished that and that's already happened, or they do have the sway to where they could say, oh, you happen to fall within this 100-mile radius, come train with us. And it's going to, it'll make the competition less exciting to watch. And then I just am excited or interested to see, is the benefit on the other side to affiliates in some way that I'm just not seeing yet.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, talked a little bit about your CrossFit background. You spent almost 10 years at CrossFit, right?
I did.
And then you made the move from California out to where you are now, beautiful Cookeville, Tennessee, which Chad and I know well. We spend a good amount of our time out there in Tennessee each year doing our Power Monkey camp. But what took you to Cookeville? Was it the fact that Rich was there and that Mayhem was there and that you thought that would be a good destination? It seems to be a hub in a lot of different ways with the coach and athletes that are there. But what kind of put you over the edge to say, I'm moving from California to Tennessee?
Yeah, it's a windy road, but step number one was definitively like we knew that we wanted to leave California. Reasons being, we're big lovers of California for the scenery. We had some amazing friends there, but it was just kind of a hard place to make a living, especially in the Silicon Valley area. And as the kids were growing up, we were like, hey, life could be simpler. So the intention initially was actually to work for CrossFit still and go remote, as most of the company was kind of like trending in that direction. But as you know, most people probably who are watching this know, that was not in the cards. And so kind of mid process of home buying, I got let go by CrossFit and everything turned kind of upside down at that point. But to keep it linear, when we knew that we were going to leave California, I think we weren't recording yet, but for those that don't know, I grew up really close to where Chad lives now. So I'm a Texan. And so Austin was on the map. Then there was a couple of other places. We kind of threw darts at a map, but a little bit more intentionally than that. And my wife, having veto power, took away like the Bozeman, Montanas of the world, the Jackson Holes of the world. I'm kind of a mountain kid, so I would have been really happy there as well. And it was in close proximity to that time that Rich and Hillary asked me to come out and do a mustard seed event. So I just came out and emceed. I had been here over the years for some seminars, and of course, Mayhem's got Cookeville's got a great reputation in terms of CrossFit. And so after that visit, I was like, it was half joking, but I was like, hey babe, like what about Cookeville? Because we've got friends here. You know, when you're raising kids, it's kind of hard to plug into a completely new environment without knowing anyone. And she laughed at first and was like, well, let's go check it out. And so we did a couple more visits over the course of the next few months, and really just kind of fell in love. You know, she's actually from Michigan, and me being from Texas, like in terms of like, you know, take the CrossFit stuff out of it, the natural environment, the people, it kind of triangulates nicely. Like we both have a little bit of familiarity with some of the cultural stuff. And so, yeah, by the time we needed to pull the trigger, you know, because as all this is going on, I'm going like from China to Iceland to wherever the heck I went to try and start up a freelance career. And we were like, screw it, let's try it. And so we packed up the trailer and moved to Tennessee.
It's not a bad place to be. We love it out there. We love the community, and we try to spend as much time as we possibly can out there. I can see why you wanted to be there. But your role within Mayhem has kind of taken a lot of different tentacles now. So what would you say your official title is? Director of media, you know, you work a lot with the athletes now, kind of helping with their own specific journeys. But what would you say kind of you do on a daily basis as part of the Mayhem community?
I wear a tremendous amount of hats. And so I basically, so I do act as an agent for both Rich and Haley. And in addition to that, I really am catering all of the outside relationships that Mayhem has. And then on top of that, as a side hobby, I guess I help lead the media effort. But luckily, we've got a really strong team in house. And Rich is the kind of guy where you can just kind of point your camera at him and magic happens. And so it falls in place. I don't want to say it just falls into place, but we've been really lucky in terms of what the media is able to do. And so, but yeah, it's a lot of outside relationships. As you guys probably know, there's a ton of them. We work with a lot of companies on a lot of different fronts. And it's been really, really interesting and different from what I've done in the past. You know, the nice part is that most of these companies are ones that I have personally worked with before, or that I have relationships with those inside of the organizations as well. But it's been an adventure. I'm not gonna lie. There's never a lack of excitement around Mayhem.
And so you work with, you know, one of the most well-recognized people within the sport, Rich, and you work with one of the best up-and-coming athletes that we have within the sport with Haley. What would you say are some personality traits that you see between both of them that kind of stand out? Are there any similarities?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'll steal Rich's words because he calls it the nasty. But they do both have and this is in terms of competition and like actually training. They've just got a switch that, I mean, obviously I've been around Rich and known Rich since he started his career. So I've had a first person, you know, front row seat to that. But actually hearing him say it and then looking and being like, oh yeah, she does have that, is Haley's ability to basically just turn into a robot, you know, and go into what people like to refer to as the pain cave. But she can just live there. Like Haley is pleasantly, like in a training environment, in a competition environment, like pleasantly devoid of the typical emotions that you would see in a 20-year-old female. She's right. Just like, she's mature beyond her years in that sense. And honestly inspirational. It's really funny. Like people will come to a train with Rich, and my favorite thing is because it comes up every time. And they're like, Rich, can you teach me to be more competitive? And like, he's like, he scratches his head and, you know, bless him, like he tries, but the answer is no, I can't. Yeah. You know, that's really fun to see or be around people like that. And you're like, you've got something that most people don't have. I sure as hell don't have it, you know? And so that's what jumps out like immediately, is to say, I think that's their key to success. And the other thing about both of them that I can say beyond the shadow of a doubt is just like super authentic. There's, you know, you mentioned you're moving here, and we didn't move here to work for Mayhem. It's been a blessing that transpired and worked out. But I know plenty of athletes, celebrities, you name it, where, as you guys know, like digital personas are all very curated. And when you meet them, you're like, that was disappointing, or, right. Oh, you're completely different than I thought. But with both Rich and Haley, like what you see is what you get. And that's always, it's always been refreshing with Rich. And it was a really pleasant surprise with Haley as well.
Yeah, that competitiveness is absolutely something you can't teach, right? You either have it or you don't. Chad, would you say that you have it as a competitor? That a switch turns on when you got that barbell in your hand?
Not when it comes to CrossFit, but weightlifting. Yeah. I think, and Rory, I don't know if you remember me doing a workout at CrossFit HQ with you guys when we recorded the slow motion
Oh yeah.
snatch and clean and jerk videos, but I'm sure you guys were just looking at me like, oh, this guy, man, what, how is he an Olympian? but yeah, no, I wanted to ask you about Haley because, you said she's very authentic, as is Rich, but I think from the outside looking in, because she doesn't have a whole lot of emotion, that she is very robot like when she competes and everything else. I think that people can probably get the wrong impression from her from the other end of that, because she's not being fake. She's not doing anything other than what she does and what she does so well. And she's so focused on being good in her training and everything else. So is there anything that you can say to that, like, people that may be questioning Haley in that regard, what is she like now that you've gotten to know her more specifically as a person and have a relationship?
Yeah, that's a great one. That's really interesting. Yeah, we joke from time to time. We say we call it resting rich face. But with Haley, I think, I don't know. Here's the deal. In people love to put a lot of pressure is put on these athletes, and she's really, really, really young.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was 19 until last month.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I think that, there's a lot of pressure, or there's a lot of not even pressure that people intentionally or know that they're putting on someone, but
Mm-hmm.
shoot, you guys both probably know it as, now like celebrity coaches, where people follow you on Instagram, they show up and they think they know you and they think they know things about you. You've done these interviews and your wife's in the background, so they think you know your wife.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of things that people put onto athletes like that. So I don't know. I'm not in the business of really trying to change people's minds.
Yep.
I can only tell you authentically like what my experience has been. And it's like I said, like what's been really fun for me is to be exposed to it on a consistent basis and be like, wow, that's this is a good person. This is a really,
Mm-hmm.
really fun person to be around. The only negative that I can say is that it's really funny for me, like as my kind of hair goes gray and being around like not just her, but like there's other people in our organization who are 22, 23 years old. And I'm like, man, I'm starting to feel old.
Right.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah.
There's references you're making and there's things you're saying that I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what you're saying. Like,
Sure.
I don't even have a frame of reference to try and respond,
Yeah. Chad and I both turned 40 this year too. And I think we sometimes forget, like, Haley has been coming to camp since she was 15, to Power Monkey Camp. We've known her for a number of years now, watched her grow up through the junior circuit, and she's still 19 and 20 years old. And like, to think back when 20 years ago, when I was 20 years old, what a kid I was, and like how dumb I was with like how much more she is capable of than I was when I was 19 and 20 years old. You sometimes lose perspective as you get older and look back and say, wow, that's a pretty accomplished person when I was like barely able to walk, let alone, finish top 5 in the CrossFit Games.
Yeah. Or another way that we put it in perspective the other day is I said to Rich, I was like, hey, remember when you took second at the games in 2010? Haley was 9 years old.
Oh man.
Isn't that wild? Like she's my daughter's age now, and
amazing.
I can't comprehend that. So I don't know, Chad, to people, I would say, first of all, like buffer your expectations about what you're hoping from a celebrity athlete, or, if it's, I take issue when people are like trying to calibrate their world off of somebody else's, or put too much on athletes like that. But I think I know what you're saying as well. It's like, she's a young, very driven person. So be inspired.
Yeah. And people should be inspired. And I'm just very intrigued by that. And the reason why I asked that is just out of curiosity from that specific type of situation. And I'm very interested in the psychology behind all of it, because, through the years I've learned, and many people have told me, and even tell Dave, that people think that we're intimidating, and so I've had to kind of step outside of myself and look in and see, what am I doing? What am I saying? Why am I intimidating? Because I don't necessarily want to be intimidating. I'm a coach, I'm a teacher. I want to get up in front of people. I want them to feel welcomed. immediately so that we can get to business, and maybe that's part of it. I'm trying to get to business, right? But I try to have fun with people and everything else too. But when they're coming in with an initial feeling of intimidation, that's not necessarily good for me or
Yeah.
Power Monkey, you know what I'm saying? So it's always a learning experience for me to ask that type of a question about people, and to get your take on that as well. And the what kind of sucks about that a little bit is maybe there have been people closed off from learning from me that wouldn't have been otherwise if I wouldn't have portrayed intimidation. And for Haley, maybe there could be more people and more young girls inspired by her if they didn't make a snap judgment, you know, in that regard. So
yeah, it's funny though, you know, and I just like to push back on that. It's how many people would you not have reached if you were to lose the authenticity of who you are as a coach?
Sure.
And like that may come across like, listen, I struggle with this because I just want to be everybody's friend. I want everybody to like me. It's desperate, you know, desperately. Like it's one of my challenges in life.
Yeah.
And I'm 39, so I'm a year behind you guys. But yeah, it's taken this long to be like, hey, dude, like you can't be you and like everybody like you as well. It's just not the reality of life. But you've got some God-given talents, and that's gonna authentically reach people. So it's like, yeah, don't change. You're fantastic, coach.
Oh, no.
And if people are intimidated by it, it's
you gotta like you. You gotta like you first, right?
Yeah.
You gotta like who you are before anyone else can like that part of you. But I agree with you, Chad, about like the intimidation factor. I think we've gone a long way just being able to interact with people through our clinics and in-person camp to be able to authentically show who we are and to be approachable at the same point. So I think that's, it just takes time for people to be able to say, okay, these may be people a little bit different than what they come across on social media or whatever it might be. But just as you're saying, Rory, authenticity is kind of the name of the game with all of it.
Yeah. And that's why people get drawn to you in the first place, right? Through all that stuff, because you can sniff that out, man. I think we live in such a weird world with social media. Actually, all like us at the age that we're at, there's this unique generation below us that's going to be in their life the entire time. We remember like back before, you know.
I want to go back to that time.
Oh yeah, please take my cell phone away. I mean, I would gladly them go away.
I heard it. There was a country song that I heard the other day, and I won't remember the lyrics, but it's about basically like, he's like, man, breaking up must have been easy in the 90s. He's like, now I open up Instagram and I can see like, you know, I see you doing all your stuff. And it's like, the world is so much more complicated now.
Wait a minute now, Rory, you're a Texan and you don't know the words to every single country song there is. Maybe you lived in California too long.
You're going to put me on it. Well, first of all, it's pop country. We could get into this. Like, are you a country fan?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
More so 80s and 90s though.
80s,
because
90s, but I was never into Nashville country. Like there's some great singer-songwriters that came out of Texas. You know, like the Robert Earl Keens of the world, and you've got some really good music. So like when it's pop country, which my kids love, it's hard for me to plug in.
Sure.
Sometimes it's even hard for me to acknowledge that it's country. I'm like, nah, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a rap song.
Yeah, for sure. If I can't two-step to it now, I'm not so sure about it.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about with country. I grew up in New Jersey. I don't think we didn't even have country music station in New Jersey growing up. So
yeah, but that's my point, right? Is you probably heard of like Dan and Shay. You've heard of Taylor Swift, and I'm like, are you really country?
Right.
That's a big jump from like Johnny Cash to Taylor Swift.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned that one of your life missions is to be liked. And I would say it doesn't take someone listening to you commentate or MC for not even a minute, and they're going to understand who you are, and you're very likable. Do you have any plans to continue doing that in the future?
I do, man. I love it. It's funny. I was even plugging into this role. It's been like utilizing a lot of natural gifts and talents, but whenever I don't, I'm sure you guys have something that I just love to do. Whenever I don't flex like my creative or my connection / presentation kind of itch, I get all out of sorts. And so, I'm very focused on mayhem. There are some opportunities within that to do some of that stuff, but most of it that has like nothing to do with CrossFit at the moment. So as an example, the same guy that hired me to CrossFit gave me a freelance gig, and right now I'm doing sideline commentary for the drone racing league.
Really?
So,
Drone racing
Nice.
league. Wow.
Yep. So random, but this is the same man who started Grid League. So Tony Budding left CrossFit, started Grid League,
Right.
and then now he's gone on and he's the media director for DRL. And it's really funny, like how much bleed over there is between behind the scenes media people that I used to work with for DRL and CrossFit. And so it's almost like a reunion, you know, like even the producer in my ear is one of my best friends, and like we're just chit chatting all night. But so yeah, some stuff like that, just kind of flexing that every once in a while to make sure, like, hey, yeah, you want to keep the rest off, want to make sure you kind of keep on doing that kind of stuff. I've really taken a massive dip in social media. Like, you know, we're kind of scratching the surface on the authenticity stuff and whatnot. I've found myself just tremendously unmotivated anytime I open that app.
Oh yeah, me too.
Maybe it's because 2020 was so contentious and there was so much crap going on. I couldn't handle it. And so that's not my favorite medium, but presenting, especially, you know, sports and on TV, and we've done some really fun stuff. I don't know how much of the YouTube stuff you've seen that we've done here in the last year, but we went on some fun trips. That kind of stuff really wakes me back up and makes me feel alive.
So the Army trip, did you go on that one with them? The skydiving?
Dude,
and
insane.
Did you do skydiving as well?
So we had just gone skydiving tandem recently, and there was a limited amount of seats. And so I gave up my seat on that because the helicopter day, it's like, I used to want to be a helicopter pilot, had that dream up until I actually tried to apply for the military when I was 28 years old, and they told me I was too old to be a pilot. And it was the first thing that I was too old to do. And I was like, no. So anyways, I really wanted to fly, especially with this, we flew with the 160th. They're basically the Navy SEALs of helicopter flying. And so it was the coolest thing. And I was like, you guys go ahead and jump out of a plane. As long as I get a seat on that helicopter, like, I'm good to go.
That's awesome. It's funny. We had on our podcast not that long ago, Casey on. I don't know if you know Casey. Casey's part of the Army's CrossFit team. She's actually a Special Forces helicopter pilot as well.
What?
And yeah, she's awesome. She is one of the most impressive women you will ever meet in your life. Special Forces helicopter pilot, first Black Hawk Special Forces helicopter pilot, and she's part of the Army CrossFit team. She's badass. Chick.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if we met Casey.
I don't know if she was there. She said that she wasn't around, but she's hanging out with those guys all the time doing that stuff. But she's part of our Power Monkey staff now with camp and everything. So next time camp rolls around, you got to come out and meet her.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, tell her to fly that Black Hawk down. Pick me up,
right?
Phil, and then I'll come on over.
Yeah, absolutely.
So land it right there in the middle of camp. That'd be amazing.
Plenty of space.
Don't even land it. We'll fast rope out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Before we move on, I was kind of like, you glossed over kind of quickly, but this drone racing league. Can you just mention this really quickly? Because I've seen some videos on this before, and it looks insane. It looks like pod racing from like Star Wars. Like these guys kind of hauling ass. Like, did you know anything about this before you jumped into it?
Not a thing. So I'm pretty good with a drone, like a commercial drone for, you know, making videos. But yeah, and so I was skeptical, and I'm like, oh, come on, dude. We got a bunch of snot-nosed kids, like kind of nerdy. Is this a real thing? But come to find out, no, it's really legit. And in a non-COVID year, so this year they've gone remote, which and of course, being like behind the scenes guys in years past in CrossFit, I'm really impressed by the technical setup. And so now they're actually literally playing a video game. So there's a simulator that people can like play on Xbox, and they're actually playing the video game for the actual season. So we're all virtual. There's like, I think 14 different time zones between the producers and all the talent and all that kind of stuff. So this year's a bit different, but on the season that I did, which was it was in person, the technological assets that they've created is like, for example, we went to Hard Rock Stadium, the Dolphin Stadium, and they've set it up to where they got the radio frequencies strong enough to where these guys will fly like up the visitor concourse, down into the football stadium, in through like the players' tunnel, into the locker rooms, up and around. Like the course goes all 360 through the whole place.
Wow.
And they're doing it, dude. They're like, they're first-person viewer goggles, and they're like in the cockpit.
That's insane.
It is insane. And to be there on site, like, it's got a little bit, when they fly by you, there's the thrill. Not like NASCAR, but like it's close, you know? It's like, holy cow, those things are going 80 miles an hour and cruising down hallways, and it's pretty wild.
That's pretty cool stuff. I gotta check that out. You gotta send us a link for that. I want to check it out.
It's as niche as CrossFit was back in the day,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But
Yeah,
it's on ABC. It's like, it's a big deal, man. They've done a really good job with the promotion and like the getting it out there, getting the word out.
Yeah, I'm very interested to hear the commentary on that. I mean, it just seems like I don't even know what you guys would be saying. You know what I'm so.
I'm sideline reporting, thank God, but they do play-by-play in color on it, and I'm like, how on earth you can? It's like the Micro Machine guy.
Right.
The guy who does play-by-play, he also does pro bull riding, and I'm
Nice.
like, dude, do you have to do this in bull riding? He's like, not even close. In bull riding, it's just kind of easy, and then drone racing, he's like, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da.
Nice.
Wait, we need to get your partner in crime, your Spanish assistant, Facundo, to help out with the international crowd. I had to bring Facundo up because he's one of my favorite people in the world, and I know he loves you so much. But have you talked to him in a while?
We FaceTimed this morning.
Oh, did you really?
I got it's Facundo's
Your
one of my
daily
spirit
FaceTime.
Not daily, but when I need a good counseling session, he's got my back.
For the listeners who don't know, Facundo is kind of the international man of mystery when it comes to the CrossFit world. He speaks every language known to man. He knows everybody. He's done everything. He's an incredible guy, and I know he's become really close with you over the years as well.
He has, yeah. He's an Argentine born, lives in Belgium. Yeah, speaks all the languages. Yeah, me and Facundo got tied up. I don't remember exactly which one. It's probably the 13 or 14 European regional, and he was literally just assigned to me like as an assistant. And it was really funny. I wasn't trying to test him or anything, but there was a couple of outrageous requests that I made, where he like, you know the butler in Mr. Deeds, where he just like shows up in front of you.
Yes.
I was like, whoa, dude, you got me the milk chocolate with 2 raisins in it. Holy cow. But he just had this amazing competence, and as you guys know, he had a background in the European Parliament, and so anything that I'm asking him, I'm sure was severely pedestrian compared to what his actual job was. But he actually he just blew me away. And then over the years, I was like, I got to have this guy with me when I'm in Europe. And then I was like, hey, we got to bring him out for the games. And then we developed a really strong friendship. So yeah, he's
very little the guy can't do, and
very little the guy can't do.
Hope he's listening, Facundo. We miss you, and we hope that 2021 brings us all a chance to hang out again together.
Amen, dude. They're having a hard time over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anytime that I complain, I look at the fact that I've got a backyard. I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't imagine being in like any kind of a city for that matter, but man, it's just tight quarters over there. He was telling me some of the restrictions that they have to like get they have special access for the park. Even it's like color coded. You can only go at certain times, and it just sounds like a struggle. My heart goes out to them and anybody who's going through that stuff. Yeah,
hopefully we can start moving in the right direction here in the next couple of months as vaccines start hitting the masses and things like that. But
it seems very hopeful. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. With regards to what's going on now with Mayhem, I know you guys got a bunch of projects going on. You mind talking about a few that are kind of up and coming? I know you have a few that you wanted to kind of mention in terms of right now.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of especially it's funny. It's a good pivot from COVID, because I'm sure that you guys. Well, I saw you guys have an online offering. Chad, you posted about that.
Yes. Yeah. On the Power Monkey Camp online.
Yeah. And so in similar fashion, we're probably one of the few businesses that's able to help in these kind of times, right? So our online training program is getting a lot of action in a great way. Because like I said, like my heart's in the training side of things anyways. But yes, so for the month of January, when do we publish this?
It'll probably go out next week. So second week of January.
Okay. So all this month of January, we're basically giving away M30, which is the body weight sort of minimal workout or minimal equipment necessary option of Mayhem Athlete. And that's totally free. We partnered with RP Diet, the RP app. And so people will get both of those things for free. So I know that there's mixed reviews of January like fitnessers, but I like to embrace them and say, like, if anybody who wants to make a positive change, like I really try and encourage them along on that. I'm not too proud to say, hey, come on, let us help you with the resolution. So that's one that's really exciting. And it's got a lot of positive response from people who are like, yeah, I kind of vaguely had some fitness goals, but now I'm definitely in. So the M30 challenge, that's called, and it's, through Rich's or through Mayhem Athletes Instagram. And yeah, man, just an opportunity to get plugged back into a big training effort like that was a big boon to me and kind of my positive frame of mind.
Love it. Love it. Are you doing any of this on your own? Are you applying what you're trying to sell? What's your training looking like right now with it?
Training, yeah. Let me talk about diet first, because I got some massive wins there.
Sure.
So I usually do like the first 30 days, I'll do some sort of an elimination type effort or diet. So I've gone off of coffee, which is a really big deal for me, and I'm trying to get rid of dairy because I think that makes a really big difference in my life. But I have been religious about the RP app and actually tracking macros, which it's not a weakness for me, but it's something that I always, I am playing along. I want to be part of the team, but I've had a lot of success with the RP app, so I'm enjoying that. In terms of training, I'm being consistent, but I make the mistake of trying to plug in with the athletes here in Cookeville. Like,
that's dangerous,
I'm
man.
good
It's
at,
dangerous.
I know it really is. Like, I'm good about ego, and I'm good about being like, nah, player, I'm gonna scale. And it's funny, in Cookeville, a lot of times you scale and people are like,
Not allowed out here.
What is this scaling you speak of? So no, I've been good. I've been really good about at least moving every single day. And again, like I've gotten wise enough at 39 years old to not be like, yeah, I'm going to try and plug into like a 3-hour training session with these guys. Like I'm good for my hour a day. And sometimes I check my ego, and that's just a jog with my dog if that box hasn't been checked yet. So I'm consistent, man, but you're never going to see me at the CrossFit Games. So, you guys can let your breath out.
Yeah, sure. Are the workouts that you're doing mostly at Mayhem, or do you work out with Rich at the house, or does Rich even go to Mayhem very much, or is he mostly on his own?
They mostly train at the barn. I mean, like, you guys have been to the barn. Yeah. It's a dream gym, really, for anybody. So, and the commute for him to walk out of his front door and be there in, 90 seconds is pretty nice. And so he mostly trains there. And I will get probably, one of my goals for 2020 in general is to put a priority back on fitness. So it's funny you asked the question. It's like, no matter what, like even ever since I started working for CrossFit, even as a coach, it had like an inverse relationship with my actual fitness level, because I'll find enough things to do in a day that I'll push my training back. So I've actually started training or scheduling these things in. So I will be going to the barn more often, but oftentimes I get like maybe 2 or 3 times a month I'll actually train. I'm up there all the time. We're filming stuff, we're collecting photo assets, talking to Rich, whatever it is, but plugging into an actual workout happens less often. It's almost a running joke.
Well, anything else that you guys are really kind of trying to push or excited about 2021 with regards to what you're doing on the media side?
Man, we're hoping to get involved in the competition season. There's obviously so many details to be worked through there in terms of interactions with CrossFit and how we make that actually happen. We now know what's going to happen with the team competition. So reserve the right to not say quite yet what live events might look like, but we feel like we do those really well. So hopefully being able to plug in some way, shape, or how. And then, the YouTube stuff, we have all the plans in the world to continue doing things that we think are really fun, and then bringing people along for the ride, which has always been my dream job. So for example, we cut bike trails on Rich's property. We've all invested in some pretty nice bikes. The Army thing is a great example of that. So that is what I am most personally excited about. And then from a business perspective and then changing the world perspective, the online training stuff is, I hope that people will go check it out and give it a shot.
Absolutely. We'll make sure we get some links going to get our listeners plugged in over there. And we are getting a little bit close to the end of the podcast, but we got a few additional questions for you if you won't mind sticking around for a few more minutes.
Bring it.
All right. So first one, I feel bad asking this one, Chad. Should we even just take it off the agenda?
We might need to just take it off the list altogether. So. But I'm not a quitter. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep fighting, and we'll see how it goes. All
right. Nice and easy. What sport or discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Oh no, you guys. It's an easy one to prefer, but there's one that I aspire to. I prefer weightlifting. I aspire to gymnastics.
A diplomatic answer. There it is. So,
Thank you.
so
Well,
I guess we
you
both
did
get a
ask
point.
prefer. You did ask
Yeah, I did.
prefer.
That's right.
So
That's it. I did ask
so
prefer. So I'll give you that one, Chad.
you
I'll
can
give it
be
to
the unintimidating guy that you are and give me a point for that one. How about that?
It's,
Chad, I'm going to send you a link. Actually, like for me, it's hit or miss these days. I jumped in on a session the other day with Rich and those guys, and they were lifting weights, and I just stepped up and hit it a couple times, and I've gotten so many like digital high fives ever
Nice.
since. And I was like, it was just luck. It was like it just happened to be there that day.
Just caught it just right.
Caught it just right.
Yeah, I need to see it. I need to see it.
All right, number 2. Any podcast guest that you think we should have on that would be a good guest for us?
Well, we were talking about Haley, obviously.
Mm-hmm. We did have Haley on a couple episodes ago. I would love to have her back on again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Man, we've met so many amazing, interesting people over the. Well, can I put it back on you? Like, who do you guys? Who is the guest that you guys are desperate to have on the show?
Well, Rich would be one.
Yeah, I would love to have Rich on.
Yeah.
Rich, Rich loves a good podcast these days.
We have limited interaction with Rich. Normally, he'll come out to camp every once in a while after the guest, and he comes and does the rope swing or
watch this. You said his name. Oh, it's not him.
That would be hilarious.
I thought he was going to appear like
you rang. Yeah, it's open the door.
I've heard my name.
But yeah, we would love to get Rich on, or some other, like Eric. We'd love to get Eric on.
Eric Rose would be a great guest.
Yeah.
I would love to hear you guys have a good conversation with him.
But yeah, I mean, anybody who has something that the community would want to hear. And, really one of the things that we try to push very much on the podcast is the mentality of technique focus, and somebody who's kind of at the peak of their field. What kind of techniques do they utilize to be able to stay at the top of what they do?
Yeah. Another young athlete who I just had the pleasure of meeting recently was Justin Medeiros.
Oh yeah.
And he's, it's funny because they're the same age, but he, in a lot of ways is very opposite from Haley in the fact that he's very verbose. He's very,
really?
Oh yeah. He's got a lot to say. I'll send you the link.
I think he lives out here by me. He's in Portland, so I think he's out this direction.
Close-ish, yeah. Well, at least for the longest time, he was training at Fort Vancouver.
Yeah, it's not far. It's like 20 minutes.
So he might still be there.
Maybe it's worthy.
Really good kid. Really fun to talk to.
All right, we got to put him on the agenda.
Awesome. Well, last few questions here, Rory. Which do you prefer? Reading a book, watching a movie, a documentary, or a TV series?
Oh my gosh. A book. I love to read books. And again, this is aspirational because I probably don't do that as much, but just finished Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights. If you guys haven't read it yet,
I have not.
Yeah.
I heard it's good. I've heard a lot of people talk about it actually.
Yeah. I was about to ask
fun and it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah. I was about to ask for a recommendation. So we'll take that as your recommendation for sure. And
perfect.
I have seen that one and it's very intriguing. I'm interested, curious, more curious than anything to see what he has to say. So
hey, there's your perfect podcast guest. If I can have that one.
Yeah.
Oh
Chad,
man,
you got to use your Austin influence to pull that one off.
I can always try. I'm not really that afraid of failure. So you know what,
good man.
I'll go for it. Well, Rory, man, it's been a pleasure to have you on. It's good to see you. Good to talk to you. It's been too long. And as Dave was saying, hopefully everything goes okay. We can have Power Monkey Camp out there in Tennessee and get you to swing by and say hello in person.
Yes. Likewise, brothers. Yeah, it was awesome hanging with you guys.
Awesome. Well, to our listeners out there, be sure to check out that programming that Rory was mentioning, the M30 challenge. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep. You can just check it out on Mayhem Athlete.
Awesome. Well, guys, go check that out. Also, be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. Also, check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Ollie Chad. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your host. I'm Chad Vaughn with Dave Durante. And until next time, guys, thank you all for listening.